FOO.com station. The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbranson and Matt Gutierrez.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Wake up, Las Vegas. It's FOO Day. Yes, it's Sunday, too. But today, the man, the legend, the man they call FOO, Raiders great Phil Villapiano, will be with us later in the show. And he won't pull any punches, all right? He's going to tell us what he thinks of Amari Cooper's interview this past week about his time and about leaving the Raiders. Interesting.
He has some strong thoughts there, Scott.
He does have some strong thoughts. As well, some other great takes, so make sure you stay with us throughout the show and listen as FOO lays down the law, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming to you live from the Dollar Loan Center, don'tbebroke.com studios. This is Silver and Black Today, Las Vegas' only dedicated Raiders talk show, getting you ready for today's game as the Raiders host the hated Kansas City Chiefs and their phenom young quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. But Matt Gutierrez, my co-host, welcome. It's been a rough week for the Chiefs. Kareem Hunt on the heels of a damning video released by TMZ, released by the team, my man. And if the Raiders, you don't want to see anything bad to happen to anybody, but if the Raiders picked a week to play the Chiefs, this would be it, would it not?
Yeah, maybe. Pat Mahomes threw for 6 touchdowns last week, and I know that Kareem Hunt is a dynamic running back, but he's clearly not the focal point of this offense. They have weapons all over the place, and let's not forget the Raiders struggle mightily to cover tight ends, and the Chiefs have one of the better ones in the NFL in Travis Kelce, so I don't know that this is going to slow down their offense too much, especially against a team as poor as the Raiders are on defense.
That is very true. It should be interesting, but we're going to talk about that and cover that later with a multitude of guests, including Michael Troiano, our in-house legal expert. He'll tell us about those issues, and, of course, Nate Taylor. Each week we meet you here to talk about Raiders football. Raiders football. Get it out. To take your questions and to debate the state of the Oakland, soon-to-be Las Vegas Raiders. We want you to call in. What do you think of Kareem Hunt? What do you think of what's going on with that situation? We'll also take your calls after we talk to Phil Villapiano, so you want to do that. 702-889-5978. Tell us what you think. We're brilliant. If you think we're hacks, whatever it is, call in what you have to say, and we'll give you a clothesline like Phil would have done. Reminder, we're streaming today's show worldwide on the radio.com app, of course. Also, we stream the show live via video to our YouTube channel. We tweeted that out so you can check it out. So go subscribe and watch up. Also, live stream listener and viewer chat is very rambunctious usual mornings here. You can catch us on Facebook Live, Periscope via the Twitter handle for CBS Sports Radio, as well as other spots. And, of course, on Twitch, if you're a gamer, we're there as well. Check out our website, silverandblacktoday.com. We cover the Raiders like no one else in Las Vegas. Make sure to head over there and bookmark that puppy. In addition to the show and the website, our top podcast of 2018, according to the Nevada Press Association. We've had a couple weeks off, but we'll be back on this week, so look forward to that and subscribe. Now let's get on today's shows and guests. I suggest that you do not tune out, Matt. I'm sure you told everybody at home you got to make sure you tune in today, right?
Always.
There's no.
There's a big one today, though.
Yes, there's a big one today. So and if you're watching on the video, you can see over my left shoulder we have a special little decoration in the studio. So check that out as well. In addition, here's what we have going for yet another week. Also, we have a report on the Raiders in the community, another event this week. Pretty cool. In the first hour, our weekly contributor, Vinny Bonsignore from The Athletic Los Angeles, will join us. He'll give us some insight into the NFL's view on the Kareem Hunt release and the NFL's big problem with domestic violence, from this Hunt incident to last week's Reuben Foster release from the 49ers and subsequent signing by the Skins. We'll also ask him about what the players have to say about the scenes, behind the scenes about this case, and get his take. Oh my gosh. I needed more coffee clearly today.
I guess so, man. You need to take the marbles out of your mouth this morning.
That's right. And get his take on the high-impact Chiefs moving forward. Also in the first hour, our in-house criminal law expert, Michael Troiano. He's not a judge, but we call him the judge. He'll be here to talk about what's next for Hunt and what his case may mean for the NFL players moving forward, and how even the appearance of domestic violence can ruin a player's career or even for life. Troiano will lay down the law here for us as well. We'll close out the first hour, back to Raiders football, X's and O's, and talk to our NFL senior analyst, Chris Reed, down from Phoenix. He'll talk about rookie interior defensive lineman P.J. Hall and how this talented young player figures in the Raiders' future. So tell us what you have to think about that as well. After the top of the hour, it's not me time, it's not you time, it's FOO time, Raider Nation, the best interview in all of football. The poster boy for the rough and tumble 1970s Oakland Raiders, Phil Villapiano, will be with us. He'll tell us his thoughts on everything from the Khalil Mack trade. He has a few things to say about that.
Couple.
Amari Cooper's interview last week, and he'll be bringing
a few things to say about that, too.
A little bit. And he'll have also a story, Matt, about a very special guest that Phil will be bringing to the Oakland Coliseum next week when the Raiders take on the Steelers. I don't want to ruin it for
Pretty cool deal,
anybody.
right?
It is a very cool deal. So he'll tell us about that as well. And again, this is our early Hanukkah or Christmas gift for you, which is this Phil Villapiano interview. So make sure you join us, listen to the interview, and bask in the glory that is the Foo Man. Well, we'll focus on today's opponent for the Raiders, the Kansas City Chiefs, and welcome the athletic Kansas City beat writer Nate Taylor. He'll give us the inside scoop on the Hunt bombshell this week and tell us how it might impact today's game. Then we'll close out the show with Matt's wild card segment, and my co-host goes under center for his popular Audible segment. He'll choose a random subject. We'll discuss, we'll debate, we'll argue, we'll agree, whatever it may be. And as always, we take your calls, 702-889-5978. All right, Matt, so we have so much going on today, right? But we also want to talk about, let's start with a positive. We're going to talk about a bunch of negatives with the Kareem Hunt stuff in here in a minute. But I want to talk about a big positive. This week, our correspondent in the field, David Stepanian, attended a Raiders event. There's like one or two a week now, man.
Always in the community, man.
It's phenomenal.
I'm honestly, take note, Vegas. This is what they're going to do, and this is just the beginning. They're not even here yet, and they're always here.
Yeah, and I'm blown away because I've been to many of them, but there's so many that I can no longer keep up. Thank goodness we have somebody like David. So here's David Stepanian with a look at what the Raiders had going in the community here in Las Vegas this week.
'Tis the season of giving, and with Christmas just around the corner, the Raiders are in the spirit of giving. Earlier this week, the Raiders held surprise blitzes to 3 Las Vegas nonprofits and donated $15,000 to each of the foundations.
To the after-school all-stars for the great work that you're doing in the community. We know it's very important to have that base for our youth, to have an after-school program. It's really important, and we're excited about this opportunity to present this check to you.
After School All-Stars is an after-school youth program and was also one of the foundations to be surprised by the Raiders' visit. Co-chair Jenna Morton was ecstatic to get the visit from the Silver and Black.
We know that the Raiders do participate a lot in the community where they play, and since we are their new home, they're doing that before they even arrive here, and we think that's really cool, and we're thrilled that they've decided to support After School All-Stars, because After School All-Stars supports about 6,000 children per year in 16 Clark County schools with free, comprehensive after-school programming that includes both educational activities and, more importantly, sports and fun. So it's a perfect fit to have the Raiders supporting After School All-Stars because we're sort of sports, fun, kids, community.
The check presentation was handled by UNLV alum and former Raider Leo Gray to a very warm response from After School All-Stars.
A lot of our kids after school, they'll leave the campus and then they could end up, getting into things that are negative and a number of things that won't benefit them as they get older. So an after-school program is very important. I remember growing up, we had after-school programs, and they were very important. Then the communities that had the most problems didn't have after-school programs. So when you have one, it gives a student a vehicle to use in a positive way instead of being steered in a negative way with some of the other things that go on in various communities.
The Raiders also surprised MVP and NYS Nevada during their Giving Tuesday blitzes. For Silver and Black Today, I'm David Stepanian.
All right, so there you have it. Thank you to David Stepanian for that report. So again, it's not just a money thing either, Matt. The Raiders and what they're doing in the community really is about showing that when you have an NFL franchise or any pro sports, and we've seen it with the Golden Knights, of course, and their foundation and the great work that they do. That you get this sort of involvement and resources. I mean, again, yes, money, but also the players, the the attention that it brings to these important causes.
Yeah, if you're a kid, you're in elementary school and you just want to get out there and play, right? You just want to get out there and have fun. You don't think about the money aspect of things. You think about these guys out on the field. You think about that shield. You think about the team, the colors. That's the stuff that excites you. And for the Raiders to get out there in the community and for these kids to see what they represent and how much they're willing to come out and help them, it's such a morale booster, and it's so great for these kids and these programs. And this is what the NFL does, maybe better than any other sports organization out there. I mean, not that the NHL and Major League Baseball and the NBA don't get out and help, but the NFL is so huge. It's the number one sport in America, and every team there's 53-man rosters on these teams with a lot of downtime. And that's not to say these guys don't work their tails off, but it's only a 16-game schedule with 6 months of off-season. No other league has that. These other leagues baseball plays 28 days out of the month.
Yeah.
Basketball and hockey are playing every other day, every couple of days. The Raiders once a week.
Well, and again, the attention it brings when you have an NFL franchise that comes out and does this, it means so much to not only the community and the organizations that benefit, Matt, but there's most of the time it involves kids. And the fact that you have an NFL player, I mean, impactful nature. I remember as a kid and having baseball players, professional baseball players and basketball players and football players come to my school. It was something that has a long-term impact on you, and you never forget it.
Right. I mean, if they just sent a check and said, hey, this is for new equipment and this is to help your facilities out and whatever else you need, here's a blank check, fill in what you want, and that's not impactful as far as a kid is concerned. That doesn't help build your brand. That doesn't help get you into the community on a positive note.
That's right.
But to go there and for these kids to see players and Raider alum and things like that, and to see all of these people representing that specific team, that gets them excited.
Yeah, no, it's good. And we're going to just see more and more of it. And let me add, too, that the Raiders have had a history of this. This is not something new just because they're coming to Las Vegas and they want to sell tickets. They have a very storied history of giving back in the Oakland and the Bay Area community. And in fact, when you watch the conversations amongst Oakland fans, one of the things that, besides the team leaving and not being there anymore, one of the things they're really concerned about is the Raiders leaving that legacy of giving back in the Bay Area, which from every indication we have, they're going to be still doing that there too, which is phenomenal.
I mean, that's their home base, right? Even once they get here and they become the Las Vegas Raiders, their roots are going to be in Oakland. They will always be in Oakland. I mean, you can say that the ties in L.A. have somewhat gone away. I mean, as far as fans are concerned, they're still there. The fans of L.A. still love the Raiders maybe more than any other team. Maybe not the Rams right now because the Rams are good, but that's a whole different front-runner fan base there. But their roots are in Oakland. They'll always be in Oakland. It's not like they're going to come to Vegas and forget what they were and where they came from and everything great that they did in the Coliseum and for the community. This is just a new beginning for the Raiders and a chance to have a state-of-the-art facility and ingratiate a new fan base into what they represent.
No, absolutely. And so we're proud of that too. That this team is taking a vested interest in the community already, and that's why the excitement building for them to get here will go quick. I mean, it's still 2 years away. Well, a year and a half, 18 months, whatever it is.
It's
now.
Close, man.
It's getting closer. But it's going to happen fast, and we're excited about it. So we'll see how that all runs down. But we are going to get to football talk now. When we come back after the break here in just a minute, we're going to be joined by Vinny Bonsignore from the Athletic Los Angeles, our weekly segment with Vinny. We're going to talk to Vinny, Matt, about the Kareem Hunt situation and since he's connected throughout the league, we're going to get his thoughts and maybe some behind-the-scenes action on what players are saying about this because it really does impact everybody, not just the individual player who took a horrific action. But it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. It's
a systemic issue, man. This is a problem that needs to be fixed immediately.
It is. All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to step aside. Vinny Bonsignore from the Athletic Los Angeles will join us, and we'll talk to him about Kareem Hunt and everything else that goes along with it, as well as how it might impact the Chiefs long term. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas.
1140.
Callers and guests on the Newsmaker line are brought to you by the Law Office of Michael A. Troiano. The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back, Silver and Black, today here on CBS Sports Radio. Before we get to our guest, I do want to give a shout out to a close personal friend, mentor, lifelong mentor of mine who's recovering from a little bit of health issue, and that is Coach Jim Bola, who I believe is watching us in Los Angeles right now. Coach, just want to tell you we're thinking about you. Get well soon, as I know you will. You're from Pittsburgh. You're a fighter. And so he'll be probably up running like a marathon here in like 2 hours.
Love Coach Bola. Hope you're doing all right, Coach.
Yeah, he's watching us as he always does, and is a great guy. So get well, Coach. All right, now we go back out on the Newsmaker line, the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line, and we are joined, as we are every week, by the Athletic Los Angeles's Vinny Bonsignore. Vinny, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
What stadium are you in today?
I'm in Detroit. Lions-Rams coming up in a short while. The Rams can clinch their second straight NFC West Division championship, and thanks to the Cowboys on Monday night, if they win out, the road to the Super Bowl will go through Los Angeles, California. So,
wow.
Exciting times for the Rams.
Now, I want to see you tweet out some pictures of you on 8 Mile. Is that going to happen?
Maybe later tonight. It's an early game, so.
Oh no! Don't go at night, man. Don't go at night. Be careful.
Exactly.
Come on, Vinny hangs out in L.A., man.
I know,
He knows about rough streets. He'll be all right.
I gotta give Detroit a lot of credit, though. They're definitely in the middle of a redevelopment here.
Oh yeah,
and you can absolutely see it. So good for them. It's still a great city. It's a gritty city. We all know that. But they're putting their best foot forward, and things seem to be turning around for sure.
Yeah, that downtown is amazing. All right, Vinny, let's get on to the subject at hand. And because of your connections and your sources throughout the NFL, the talk, I mean, clearly the Raiders are playing the Chiefs today, so it's of interest to begin with. But secondarily, for the entire league, what happened with Kareem Hunt this week? Another example of domestic violence and a player in the NFL. This time, the Kansas City Chiefs were swift with their action, and that was to immediately release Kareem Hunt after the video went public, and they found out that he lied to them initially, I guess, about what happened during the incident, even though it happened back in February. What are the ripple effects? You see, the NFL has such a checkered record on this, Vinny. You know, last week, the Reuben Foster issue didn't seem to be as taken seriously. Yes, he got released by the 49ers, but then picked up by the Redskins, who got criticized. What exactly are league sources telling you about what's going to happen next, and why was Kareem Hunt sort of, I think, the biggest example? Was it finally that they had to do something, or what do you think is going to go down come recent developments?
Well, it really is one of those situations where we kind of have to wait to see who knew what and when, type of a thing. And I'm going to lean on that because if this tape truly is new evidence, as the Chiefs say, if they didn't know that it existed or couldn't get their hands on it, and the same for the NFL, the league, then I'm not quite sure what the league is supposed to do. That you investigate, you talk to the police, you rely on the police. That's their job. I know you have, as a league, you have your own security force and private detectives that look into things. But if you're not able, from what I understood, if you're not able to get a tape, or if it's not being made available to you, short of trying to circumvent legalities and break laws to get that tape, I'm not sure where the NFL can go from there. And so you have to rely on the information at hand. But it's a bad look, and it looks like maybe they didn't push hard enough to try to get to the true bottom of it, and that's the Chiefs and the NFL. But we still have to wait and see where it all goes. Bottom line, Kareem Hunt did something that's horrible, and by all accounts, he lied about it, whether it was strictly to the police or the NFL or the Chiefs. He misled them, and it's all on him. But there's no doubt, as you said, there's going to be repercussions. even for the league, because on the surface of it, it looks like they didn't quite push far enough to get to the real bottom of it.
Vinny, if you're the NFL, isn't this a case of as long as people can't see something, we can do our best to hide it, and that's kind of the stance we're going to take? If you go back to Ray Rice, he all but told them what happened. Yeah, if you see that video, this is what you're going to see on it. You're going to see me knocking her out and dragging her out of the elevator. You have the Colin Kaepernick situation where if someone just told you, hey, Kaepernick doesn't like to stand for the anthem and this is why, people probably don't go nuts, but because there's video, they lose their mind. And then you have this situation. You look at Reuben Foster, there's no video, and he keeps getting second chances. This situation with Kareem Hunt, yeah, they investigated but didn't go crazy on it. Then the video comes out, and it's immediately this reaction to it. Is this not a case of just, you know what, if people are gonna see it, and this is the court of public opinion, people can see it, we got to do something. They got to go.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's definitely a little of that. Did they intentionally hide it? I don't believe that. I don't believe the NFL, knowing especially everything that happened, in the Ray Rice situation. I find it hard to believe that they or the Chiefs would purposely suppress something like that in the hopes that it's not going to come out, because it does come out. It always will come out when there is a tape. I don't know if they necessarily knew that there was a tape or if they weren't allowed to get access to that tape. And then what do you do in that situation? Well, you have to obviously talk to the player. You obviously talk to the people that are involved. You rely on the police to do their job. And where's the police in all of this? There was never any, charges that were pressed against Kareem Hunt. By all indications, they looked into it. They investigated. That's what the police do. So a little bit of this is on the police. But no, I don't think that at this point the NFL would, or the Chiefs, knowing the Hunt family and how they operate, that they would purposely suppress key information just to be able to make sure a player stays available.
Well, again, we're talking to Vinny Bonsignore from the Athletic Los Angeles, and we're going to be talking to Nate Taylor, your colleague from Kansas City, later on about that too, Vinny. But here's the question I have for you too: being around the players and knowing the culture of the NFL, because Matt, before the show we were discussing, and Matt said, "Hey, there's this culture amongst guys. You become this professional athlete, and you can't be shown up. It doesn't matter if it's by somebody on the street or whatever." But then again, I've also sat through, in some previous work I've done, Vinny, I've sat through some of those NFL sessions that they give players during training camp about how to stay out of trouble and all that kind of stuff. What do players tell you off the record about the pervasiveness of this and what they know and what they feel about the things that happen off the field?
Well, I mean, one thing that I would always advise to everyone, fans, whoever, you're talking about a group of 53 guys that are on an active roster and about 10 other, practice squad players. So 70-some-odd players on every team, okay? And then you times that by 32. When you're talking about those type of numbers, you're going to get, some guys like a Kareem Hunt who don't handle things well. But overwhelmingly, you get most guys that do handle it well. And what always bothers me, and I know it bothers other players, or just players, is that, when one guy steps out and does something wrong, it casts a bad light on the entirety of the league. And that just isn't the case. It really isn't the case, or we would be hearing about this on an almost daily basis. So, I would advise that the vast majority do know how to handle themselves and wouldn't put themselves in that situation. And if they are in that type of situation, would know how to handle it accordingly. But when you are in a numbers game, there's going to be a guy here or two, unfortunately, that doesn't handle it correctly. And Kareem Hunt obviously was in that situation.
No,
Rice was in that situation.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was going to say, Vinny, he could have very easily walked away. I mean, I think that, and we all get in heat of passion and stuff like that. I get that.
He had a choice there.
He had a choice, exactly, and he made a bad one. With a minute and a half or so that we have left, Vinny, how does this, the Raiders play the Chiefs later this afternoon in Oakland, how is this going to impact? I mean, the Chiefs are rolling, right? Them and the Rams and the Saints, the top three teams in the NFL. How does this impact them? What do you think is going to happen for the Chiefs losing this player?
Well, I mean, you're talking about, arguably a top three running back in the NFL. He led the league in rushing last year. It's a huge loss. Now, they do have, they're pretty well prepared, at least on a short-term basis, with Spencer Ware to to deal with it. But he's not Kareem Hunt, and very few people are. So I mean, I guess if there's one coach who can make up for a loss offensively, it's Andy Reid. But this is a loss that's going to reverberate for them for a while, and it couldn't have happened at a worse time, obviously, with one more month left in the season and then the playoffs. But the bottom line is Kareem Hunt really messed with the Chiefs on this. And
he did.
It's his doing and his lying, and I feel bad for the team, but this is on him.
Well, and that's the thing, Vinny, right? And you ended this segment perfectly, which is not only does it impact him negatively, but the impact it has on not only his teammates, but the entire organization. Vinny Bonsignore from The Athletic in Los Angeles. Vinny, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys, have a good one.
All right, when we come back, we will be joined by attorney Michael Troiano. He'll go through the legal ramifications of the Kareem Hunt issue. You're listening to Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
CBS Sports Radio. This portion of Silver and Black Today is powered by the law office of Michael Troiano.
This is Mark Bedane, president of the Raiders. You're listening to Silver and Black Today.
All right, Mr. Bedane, thank you for bringing us back. We are back, and we are going to continue our discussion on the Chiefs situation with Kareem Hunt, and of course his release this week after a video surfaced of him assaulting several people, at least appearing to assault. He was never charged. And as always, we bring in and welcome back into the studio our in-house Silver and Black Today legal expert, Michael Troiano. Michael, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Good. It's nice to bring you in and actually have a legitimate legal topic to go over. Usually we're just talking football and hockey with you.
Yeah, the league's picking up a little action
law-wise. And it's funny, too, because we had talked about several times during the season that, from the NFL perspective, there's always stuff going on. And, we don't wish anybody to get in trouble, but at the same time, the NFL always has something going on. But Michael, with this Kareem Hunt situation, okay, so you have this player, the video comes out from TMZ. We now know the league, the team knew about this incident since February. They've been investigating it. The NFL has its own, let's face it, a private kind of police force investigative unit where they do all this stuff. At the same time, the Cleveland Police Department did not charge Kareem Hunt with any crime at all. But the video comes out. He apparently lied to the team. From a legal perspective, with no charges filed, does that usually happen because there's no one who wants to press them, because the police can't prove any wrongdoing? What usually happens in a situation where you see something like this?
Well, as everyone knows, the story is really fresh, and news has literally been coming out as I was walking in the studio about what the league has done. But as far as that perspective, as why or why not the decision is made to file charges from a police standpoint, it's a lot of things. I watched the video of that girl. She was emotional, upset. I watched the video of his buddies claiming she was really, really intoxicated. I don't know about you guys. She didn't seem overly intoxicated to me.
No.
I even lean towards she seems sober and just emotional. But maybe she had a change of heart later, decided not to press charges. But at least here in Las Vegas, that's not necessarily the decision of the alleged victim. Now, of course, they want to take their point of view and get some of their input, but at the same time, if there's a video of an assault, which there is, that's all they need. So I'm very confused based on the evidence and why they did not file any charges. It's clearly an assault, clearly saw a battery, and I know there's allegations that she made racial slurs, and there's no proof of it, but let's just assume that's true. As horrible as that is, no matter how disgusting of a word or language or attitude we use towards each other, that cannot rise to violence, especially in the video we saw there. Tiny woman, large man, no matter what grotesque things she may or may not have said to him at some point, it's not going to lead to that. And who knows if it even occurred? And he goes further and kicks her while she's down, literally.
I know.
It's not as crazy as the Ray Rice video with the brutal force that you've seen, right, but it just shows such a lack of maturity, understanding of who you are, where you are, situational awareness. I mean, they use that term on the football field all the time.
Yes.
He sure was lacking it there.
I asked Vinny the question about that video and whether or not the NFL was aware of the video. It's hard to believe that this is the first time anybody has seen the video. I don't know how TMZ keeps coming up with these things, but how is it that this video can be out there and the NFL doesn't have it, or authorities don't have it? And like you mentioned, no charges were pressed at all when you have this damning evidence in front of you.
Well, it's my understanding the police have it or had it. If there's a crime that's alleged, they have the power to get that from the hotel. As far as the private parties are concerned, which the NFL would be considered a private party, legally, unless they have some sort of standing, they're not able to get that. So for example, if Kareem Hunt was in fact charged, then his attorneys could get that, and then the NFL could go to his legal team and say, hey, produce the video. But since charges were never filed, there was not that ability, at least from the NFL standpoint and even from Hunt's standpoint, to get that film. So I believe legally they didn't have the ability to get it since there wasn't a criminal charges filed or a civil lawsuit filed that they had any standing in. But it's the NFL. Let's give me a break. I mean, they got ways to get it. If TMZ can get it, but they can't get it, I don't buy it.
Right. We're talking to our in-house criminal defense attorney, our legal expert, Michael Troiano. So, Michael, you talked about, I mean, look, we deplore any violence, any domestic violence. For all of us here on this show, it's never acceptable in any format. I do, from the very few legal classes I took as a journalism student, believe it or not, I had to take some legal classes.
Let's blow the dust off of those books.
Yeah, that's right. But the whole premise, you talked about maybe a racial slur. Again, never an excuse for violence. But what is the fighting words principle when it comes to legal? I know there's some, if someone verbally does something to you, you can, what is that? Is there, because I heard that mentioned a couple times in the news around this incident, but that's never an excuse to resort to violence, correct? No matter if it's a man or a woman.
Well, it's not necessarily the exact words that are used. It just comes down to what a reasonable person would do.
Okay.
In that sort of situation. So if you're in a supermarket and somebody bumps your cart and you just say, excuse me, and they tell you to screw off, that's not enough to justify a fight. But if you're in the supermarket and you bump into someone, you say, excuse me, and the guy starts coming towards you and, hands raised, I would say reasonably enough, if you can convince a jury or if the videotape is there, hopefully to show this guy was coming on top of me. You don't need to wait to actually be physically assaulted or touched. So you just got to put yourself in a position that in this country you can defend yourself. It just depends on the level that it rises to. So in this sort of situation, a woman punches him, which happened after she pushed him. It should have ended there, and he continued way beyond that, in my opinion. I don't see any legal justification that he had to attack her.
Right.
So isolate that particular situation then.
Mm-hmm.
Where does Kareem Hunt go from here? What are the charges going to be levied against him? What are the ramifications going to be? Is he going to see another day in the NFL?
Ooh, okay, loaded question there as far as the NFL. Let's start from the beginning. I can't imagine that the police aren't going to have the pressure, because this happened in Cleveland, correct?
Correct.
Right. So the incident happened in Cleveland. I can't imagine now that it's seen the light of day that the district attorney, sheriffs, all those people that are going to be involved, phones and emails aren't lighting up saying what's going on. So I'd be pretty surprised if charges aren't eventually filed against him. We don't have the whole story, but just based upon the video, you have a misdemeanor assault, you have a misdemeanor battery. It looks as if when she's kind of thrown against their wall through the buddy that he pushes to, that she hits her head. I mean, I can't say with 100% certainty I saw that, but I watched it a couple times.
It looked like her face went right into that wall, honestly. I mean, that was pretty violent.
And when she kind of got back up, she staggered and held her head there. So I'd imagine, even if the tape isn't extremely clear, that she's going to testify to that. So if she can prove or show that there is what we call here in Nevada substantial bodily harm, which can be a broken hand, a broken wrist. It could be prolonged physical pain or headaches. It's a very broad term here in Nevada. If they have similar laws there in Ohio, specifically in that area in Cleveland, they could jump up those charges from misdemeanor battery to felony battery. So it would be battery with substantial bodily harm. And it sounds from the story they didn't know each other prior to this, so I don't see a quote-unquote domestic relationship. So I doubt domestic violence charges are going to be coming against him. But assault, battery, and there's also an issue with the cell phone that he or one of his friends took possession of it. That could be coercion. If a DA really wanted to get creative, it's probably a stretch. I don't think they'd get it. They could say it's kidnapping. By simply taking the phone. There's a little bit more to that, though.
So, Michael, people keep calling this domestic violence, I think, because it's male and female.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it doesn't. It's just violence. It's assault and battery, correct?
Correct. In order for it to be domestic violence, there has to be established a domestic relationship.
Okay.
So that has to be your any blood relative, your wife, your husband, someone that you're in a dating relationship with. So I don't believe there's any allegations or proof at this time that those two were engaged in anything prior or even that evening. But let's just assume they did hook up that evening. That's not going to rise to the level of a domestic relationship.
Okay. So So, but for the intents and purposes of the NFL, where you've had issues of men and women and violence, I think it lumps in together. That's why they're calling it domestic violence, even though it's assault and battery. Now, from the standpoint of, and Matt talked about it earlier, video here is amazing, right? Just like the Ray Rice situation. Reuben Foster gets arrested in Tampa for domestic violence, but there's no video. There was outcry, but this one is much more serious. How is this changing criminal law for you and others with video just everywhere these days?
Well, any law in and of itself is a big change. We have cameras everywhere, and now more and more jurisdictions have body cameras on their video. So one of the videos that we saw, not to transition back to Hunt, but the one video we saw in there where he was interviewing the friends and Kareem and the alleged victim, I noticed in there in the top corner there's a little yellow triangle. That's evidence.com, and that's not accessible to the public. That's usually only accessible to law enforcement, attorneys. I know when I view it, my name comes up on the screen for those purposes, that they don't want attorneys handing over or selling information to TMZ.
To the press. Sure.
I know that if an attorney was to hand that information over, that very likely they're going to be in trouble with the state bar and potentially criminal charges.
Wow.
Whoever did release it was smart enough to block the officers' faces, because that's a whole problem in and of itself. But back to what you were saying, I think it's very helpful in a lot of situations, because as I've stated before, it's not like TV and the movies. Not every single person that walks into my office did what has been told.
Yeah,
and it is nice to finally have proof, especially in those situations where they're just throwing everything against the wall at my client, and then we play the tape and it's a completely different story. And on the other hand, sometimes it can be helpful for the
Clear
defense
things up.
when it's your client may have done some of the things, but they don't necessarily know mental health issues, intoxication, drug use, and you sit them down, you show the video, and then we say, okay, how can we fix this problem, instead of their position before where it's all made up, it's all lies, because we've all been there. The adrenaline's flowing, whatever it may be, and we don't necessarily recall how things occurred, and we don't always have a video to go back and check it out.
All right. Well, Michael Troiano, criminal defense attorney here in Las Vegas, TroianoVegasLaw.com. Make sure you check it out. Thanks, as always, for coming in and clearing everything up for us.
Thanks. Everyone have a good football Sunday.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk to Chris Reed about P.J. Hall and how he's progressing for the Raiders here on the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
40. Here's your host, Scott Gulbranson.
All right, welcome back to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Thank you again to attorney Michael Troiano for coming in and getting all legal with us, Matt. I mean, you know, it's not the most fun thing in the world to talk about when you're talking football, but it happens, brother.
Well, you know, the thing that sucks most about it is the fact that we have to talk about something that's on that level. I mean, you don't ever want to see a woman being beaten by a man like that. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous that this continues to happen. And we keep going back to the Reuben Foster deal. And like we were talking to Michael before we came back on air, it's all about the video. I mean, the reason that Reuben Foster is being picked up by the Washington Redskins and keeps getting chance after chance after chance with his very checkered past and the constant violence in his life is because we haven't actually seen it happen. Let one video come out of Reuben Foster doing anything to this woman, and that's a wrap. He's done. Well, they will cut ties with him immediately on every level, just like they did with Ray Rice and just like they have with Kareem Hunt. But there's no video, so it's almost as though they can kind of brush it aside. Maybe you'll forget about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you didn't actually see it happen.
Well, and then it brings up the point, and I don't want anybody to construe this as me making any kind of excuses or feeling sorry for somebody who made a poor choice, a really bad choice. But, you know, Reuben Foster, you're right. There is a track record of incident after incident after incident. Kareem Hunt, apparently this is the first one. Now, this morning we're hearing from Ian Schefter that there might be, or Ian Rappaport, or
one of those guys.
One of those guys. They're one guy. Aren't they one guy? No. That there might have been another incident with a man where he hit somebody in the face. So maybe there is more than one. But in today's society, it's almost like one incident, doesn't matter what it is, if it's drunk driving, if it's abuse, whatever, it's like you're done.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, in football and professional sports is one thing, and life is another. This type of stuff probably happens to a lot of folks. All right. Well, we'll continue to talk about that later on when we welcome in our friend from the Athletic in Kansas City and talk about that as well. But listen, we are now going to talk P.J. Hall and the Oakland Raiders, and we bring in our senior NFL analyst here at Silver and Black today, and that is Chris Reed. Chris, how you doing today, buddy?
No, pretty good, buddy.
All right, so P.J. Hall, the Raiders' defense has just been brutal for the most of the year when you look at it from a totality, Chris. But there are really bright spots. We all know about Maurice Hurst. He gets a lot of attention. He's even up for voting for the Pro Bowl. P.J. Hall is a guy that was surprising to many where he got drafted so early for being a small school guy and a smaller stature guy, even though he's very, very strong. What about P.J. Hall have we seen in 2018, Chris, that gives us hope that this guy is going to be a long-term part of the Raiders rebuild?
Well, it certainly looked at the beginning like it was another swing and a miss in the second round, on the defensive line. At least that's how it kind of looked from the fans. But P.J. Hall is really the main thing going on with him right now is explosiveness and the way that they can line him up anywhere on that defensive line.
Do you think P.J. Hall is an every down type lineman? And you just mentioned his explosiveness. Is this a guy that instead of having to be an every down guy, can kind of get into the rotation and be used more as a specialist to really just get after the quarterback, use those strengths that he has? I think, and I said this to Scott a couple of weeks ago, I think he's one of the more heady guys on that defense. He really seems to understand the game of football and positioning maybe better than anybody on that line.
Yeah, I mean, that'll really get answered early in next season with an off season and the strength and conditioning program. Because I mean, rookies come in and they're definitely behind the eight ball from a physical standpoint, and he does get moved around in the run sometimes. But hopefully he can grow into a guy that you can stick inside in base or even on third down.
So, Chris, one of the things, too, is, you see defenses in the NFL adjust to spread offenses, and linemen have to play outside to kind of combat all of the motions and outside runs and all that kind of stuff. How is he well fitted for that part of the game as well, playing on the Raiders defense?
Just his size and his speed together, because, I mean, we all know football is more of a drag race, than any kind of a marathon. It's 0 to 110, because despite what my math instructor said, that is the max and minimum effort, that comes on every play. But you can stick him outside, and at 310 pounds, no tight end's going to be able to handle him in a run game, and he has the speed to get inside on him and get to the quarterback.
This defensive line has been, I think, I don't want to say a bright spot because the defense overall hasn't been great. I mean, I don't know that there's a whole lot of light anywhere there, but the defensive line has not been disappointing, I guess would be the best way to say this. And they catch so much heat, the Raiders do, for missing on draft picks and things of that nature. But to bring in Mo Hurst and to bring in P.J. Hall and to see what kind of production these guys have, and Scott mentioned them being building blocks, what kind of depth do you see this line having with guys like that on the forefront? And they just activated Justin Ellis coming back now. You still have Vanderdoes in there. Do you think that these young guys are going to be sustainable and, like Scott said, be the building blocks?
Well, they're going to have certainly a chance to prove it, but you figure T and Hurst and Hall certainly look like guys that at the very least are going to be solid going forward. And like you said, you got Vanderdoes who will have a shot next year, and they're certainly going to add some talent to that line. There's guys like Clinton McDonald that, are kind of going behind the scenes, and he's playing very well too.
All right. Chris Reed, senior NFL analyst with Silver and Black Today. Chris, man, thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, when we come back after the sports update, we are going to have some food time, Matt.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be fun, so make sure you don't go anywhere. Also, later in the show, we're going to be talking more about the Kansas City Chiefs. Nate Taylor from the Athletic Kansas City will join us as well, so make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you tune in if you're listening on the air and you need to run, get on the radio.com app. You can also watch us on Facebook and YouTube and see our special studio decorations. When we come back, Phil Villapiano joins us here on Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Get a shot of adrenaline, sports adrenaline, Saturday morning from 8 to 10 on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbranson and Matt Gutierrez.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, and it is FOO time again, Matt.
I love when it's FOO time.
Oh, there's no better time, and we go out on the attorney Michael Troiano newsmaker line, and we bring in one Phil Villapiano, of course, known as FOO. Phil is one of our favorite guests. Well, he is the favorite guest. He's going to be the unofficial mayor of Las Vegas when the Raiders get here. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm definitely looking forward to coming to Vegas and running for mayor. I will do that.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I want to run against my good friend David Hom, who died.
Yeah.
So, who was the real mayor of Las Vegas?
Yes, a great guy. He's missed here in the community. A jewel for Las Vegas, and of course Bishop Gorman grad, and a great Raider and a great teammate. You played, and when you got to the Raiders in '71 as part of that draft class with Jack Tatum, you learned really quick about the Chiefs rivalry. Tell me about it as a Raider. What was it about the Chiefs that created that rivalry for you guys?
Well, it started before I got there, and I was very, very happy, as was Jack Tatum, to be a rookie. Second Super Bowl was the Raiders. So these were whoever's going to get to the Super Bowl had to go through either Oakland or KC. So, that started it, who's the best. And then it got nasty. They had a defense just same as the Raiders that it was nasty. And the coaches hated each other. The owners hated each other. Everything about it was created this perfect rivalry. And I just happened to walk into it, and I got there the year after Ben Davidson spears Otis Taylor after the play's over, and somehow or another the Raiders got the benefit, even though Ben was totally wrong for doing that. We got the ball, and we won the game, and they hated us even more. So I remember preparing for the very first Chiefs game, and same side of the field.
Oh, yeah.
The benches. And Madden grabs me before the game, and he says, Phil, you don't go near that bench. Because it was just the way it was. I mean, there could be a fight at any second, and everybody hated each other. And that's what you talk about going into the NFL, and I love the NFL because it's black and white. Best guys play, the toughest guys win. I love all that. And then we're, going against the Chiefs. That's the way it was, man.
Hey, yeah. Phil, we know today's NFL is a little different when it comes to rivalries because you have so many relationships off the field now. Where if you look at guys like Marshawn Lynch and Marcus Peters, going back to this Chiefs-Raiders rivalry of the last couple of years, and they both grew up in Oakland. They're great friends off the field, and it seems to take a little bit away from that rivalry. But then when you get these two teams on the field, you go back to Derek Carr's very first win as a Raider. They were 0-10 Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs, and they somehow find a way to beat a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. How much different do you feel that it is today for these rivalries as far as that bad blood is concerned?
Well, it's a little harder, I think, today to really hate a team. I mean, everybody there's not that many guys that are on the same team for that many years to build up a real good hatred. Like, we had the same defense for 9 years with Oakland. And, boy, it can fester inside of you. So maybe a little bit different nowadays, but I know these Raiders that are going to be, playing in Oakland this week, this year. Remember back to last year, they pulled that giant upset, as you said. The referees gave them like 3 downs to get it into the end zone. That was the craziest finish I ever saw. But, hey, we won the game. It can happen again. I tell everybody that wants to listen, NFL players, the guy behind you is just as good as you are. So any given day, with a good game plan, you can beat a team. So you're coming into Oakland. Maybe it's the last year in Oakland. Maybe it's not. Maybe the last time the Chiefs ever show up at the Coliseum. So let's hate them, and let's hate them good, and let's hope our guys go out with a good game plan, and get the ball downfield, and also nail them. Defense, just nail them, play nasty. Who cares? We're not going anywhere this year.
No,
let's try and ruin it for them.
And Phil, I still think we could get you out there. I think they need a little bit of 41 in the huddle there to get them moving. But let's move on to a little bit of current news as well. As you saw during this week, Amari Cooper was traded to the Cowboys, and Amari Cooper kind of came out this week and said, listen, I wasn't being used properly in Oakland by John Gruden, and now I feel like I'm playing with more passion in Dallas. As a former player, as a former Raider, a lifelong Raider, how do you feel about what he had to say?
Well, I guarantee if I was still playing and we were playing Dallas next year, that guy would have a problem coming over the middle because Jack Tatum and myself and George Atkinson would annihilate that guy for talking like that. That's a punk talking. That is a little sissy. He's getting into the Lynn Swan type personality. Hey, he couldn't catch a ball on third down. I wanted him off the team last year. I thought it was a great move when Gruden got rid of him this year because he didn't perform for the Raiders. And catching a football not being used properly. Your job is to catch the ball. Catch the ball, jerk. As far as I'm concerned, this guy is, I really, really enjoyed him and Carr saying they were going to be together all these years. But when he started dropping the ball, get him out of here.
You talked about.
I just told you before, football is black. NFL football is black and white. You don't do your job, you're out of here. And that's why Gruden traded him, I think. Now, I got a problem with the Cleo Mack trade because that guy was doing his job. Yeah. So, I'm not afraid to say that. That was a bad one. Except, we need the guy to show up. If he's not going to show up, then we'll take a number 1 pick. Or 2 number 1 picks.
So, Phil, stay with the John Gruden theme here. As a former Raider and watching this from the outside in, what kind of job do you think John Gruden's doing? Because, you have the Cooper thing, which you're on board with. You have the Mac thing, which you don't like. Where do you think he's at as far as his progression as the head coach of this team now, and is he making good decisions?
Well, I think there's a master plan. I don't know what it is, and it surprised me a little bit that we're not. You got to find ways to win, and I think John is I don't know if he's given up on this season, way too early or something. Because I remember when Jerry Glanville, and I don't know if you guys will remember this, but he coached me up in Buffalo.
Buffalo, yep.
And Jerry Glanville was a personality, really cool guy. If anybody got to meet him, and he came and went very quickly in the NFL. But he went to Atlanta as the head coach. And I remember, and he's a big Elvis Presley fan. He left 2 seats for Elvis Presley right on the 50-yard line
every game,
and nobody could touch those seats. You guys remember that?
I do remember that, absolutely.
Okay, so that's the type of personality he was. But if you watched his defense, they stunk. But they're all, like I said, they're all just as good as the starters. So what they did was they just took chances that nobody would ever take. Did you watch last night Dallas beating up Drew Brees? They threw the kitchen sink. They said, hey, we let this guy throw the ball. We're losing this game.
Yep.
They didn't let him throw the ball, and he didn't give a shit when he did throw the ball, and the guys were dropping it because they were surprised.
Sure.
The ball was coming. But anyway, Dallas came out with a great game plan last night, and that's where get back to your question. That's what our coaches got to do. I'm not seeing great game plans. I'm not seeing anything different. I'm not seeing them. Your linemen can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Do it. Throw safety, man. Throw corners. Throw linebacker. Just mix it up. And if you do that this week, what's his name? The quarterback,
Mahomes, yeah.
Over here. He's a young kid.
Oh, yeah.
He's a young kid. He's playing against the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, they got to show up. Yeah, well, they got to show up, and he's a tough kid. And we have we know how busy you are, Phil. And we got about 30 seconds left. We know too. Now next week against Pittsburgh, you're going to the game with a special guest. Tell everybody about that real quick.
All right. Well, on my special guest is Franco Harris, and ever since the American reception, we've been hating him. I've hated him for many years. We finally got to be buddies. We're Italians from New Jersey, and on his bucket list is to see a game as a spectator in Oakland. So Franco and I are going to be in the black hole.
That's cool,
in the parking lot.
That's
We're
cool.
Going to go all around. We're going to have a great time next day.
Now,
Franco's coming with me as a guest.
Now, Phil, you will become the president of the United States if you can get him to paint his face silver and black.
I don't know if I'll ever get that done, but we're going to have a lot of fun next week. And anybody who's listening, look for us and come give him a rise him up a little bit.
All right, Phil Villapiano, Raider great. Phil, thanks as always for spending time with us.
Okay, you guys, call me anytime.
All right, Phil Villapiano, who should also be in the Hall of Fame. Check out their Facebook page. We'll give you that address when we get back. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
40.
This portion of Silver and Black Today is powered by the law office of Michael Troiano. Help us talk the Silver and Black. Call us at 702-889-5978. Here's Matt Gutierrez and your host, Scott Gulbranson, on CBS Sports Radio 1140 AM.
Welcome back, Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio. Phil Villapiano, ladies and gentlemen. Some just classic moments, Matt, during that interview with Phil.
He's not much of a fan of Amari Cooper, is he?
No. But I love, I know with the rule changes and the safety issues and all that stuff, but it's so, to me, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, right? So football was football then, the way I look at it. And so when Phil talks about, hey, just like in baseball, and I know you don't like it, but if somebody shows you up, you're going to throw a ball at them. I wouldn't say throw at their head, but nonetheless. And his point was, hey, if we were playing against Amari Cooper right now, after what he said, the next time we play him, Jack Tatum and I would pay him a special visit.
Yeah, and you know what? With good reason, because, on the outside, it looks like Cooper just wasn't happy being a Raider, right? I don't know if that started from draft day. Did he ever want to be a Raider to begin with, or was it just the fact that he wasn't being targeted enough? We talked about it yesterday. Amari Cooper getting one target in a game is a little ridiculous when you talk about a guy of that skill level. The talk about him not being able to get open, the constant. It was almost as though Cooper said, look, this is not my fault. It's not my fault that I'm not getting the football.
Right.
Everybody's piling on me saying I can't get open. I don't like what I'm hearing. It's not my fault, so I'm glad that I'm somewhere else because now I can showcase what I do well. But you can't come out and throw your teammates under the bus like that because now he's saying essentially, hey, Carr can't get the job done.
Right. And you know what? It was not all Amari Cooper's fault in Oakland. At the same time, I know that one of the common criticisms from at least fans, now media, they're not open with their criticisms always, so you don't know, and a lot of them seem to actually defend him. But a lot of it seems to be that he was not passionate, right? He just didn't have. Now, that goes back 2 years. That's not just this year. You can understand why guys would be upset this year.
He's a very quiet guy overall.
Which is fine. You can be a quiet leader. One of
my
favorite
goes to Dallas.
Exactly. He's yelling on the sideline. One of my favorite athletes, as you know, of all time, Tony Gwynn, quiet leader, led by performance, was not the screaming guy, and that's okay. But he also was passionate. You could see it in his work ethic. I don't know Amari Cooper's work ethic, but I do know what we saw on the field. And you're right. The NFL is a small club. And so when you throw guys under the bus, even read between the lines under the bus, it's not good overall. I think it's not a good look for a player.
It's a bad look. And guys like Phil who, eat, sleep, drink, breathe the Raiders, silver and black, it's in his blood. They take this as a slight against their brothers. This is a guy who was supposed to rep the silver and black, and he talked about how great it was to hear Coop and Carr talking about, we want to play together for our entire career, and that's what you want to hear. But then he goes somewhere else, and instead of being gracious in his departure and saying, you know what, I enjoyed my time in Oakland, this is a new beginning for me, I'm going to go out and prove what I can do, he, again, threw guys under the bus, whether it's read between the lines, like you said, or it's cut and dry. It's him saying, you know what, I really didn't like being a Raider. Right. I didn't have fun there. I wasn't happy there. I'm glad I'm out of there. Let me go do something else now.
Conversely, look what happened with Michael Crabtree last week. Michael Crabtree catches a touchdown against the team that basically said goodbye, let him go. And I was surprised by his reaction, but I was pleasantly surprised because Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper could have learned from Michael Crabtree. Because you know what? Even inside, if you're saying, F you, look what I did, you should have never let me go, that whole kind of I'm going to get my old team back, that's all fine. But what did Michael Crabtree? Michael Crabtree took the high road and looked like a rose.
Yeah.
Right?
I was you know, I shouldn't have been surprised. I have a friend that is inside the Raiders organization, and I ask him a lot about players and what their temperaments are like. He's around them all the time. And he would always tell me, man, Crabtree is a cool cat. Like, he is just a cool cat. And he comes off as kind of a salty guy and maybe standoffish a bit.
Competitive.
Yeah, maybe a lot like James Neal was here in Vegas with the Knights, where he is just kind of a surly guy, you know, not overly excited to talk to members of the media or things like that. But he constantly told me about what a cool dude Crabtree was. So I shouldn't be surprised by his comments after the game and talking about his time with Raider. He said he loved Raider Nation and how great it was.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. I was, because that's how Crabtree comes off. But, Coop should have taken a page from Crab there and said, you know what, let me just talk about how much I enjoyed my time in the Silver and Black, and then I'm gonna move on to Dallas. And I mean, that's two storied franchises he gets to play for. He should be happy about that fact so early in his career.
Or even Randy Moss. I mean, as much as he's hated in Raider Nation by most fans, he even took the high road, right? Thanked Raider Nation and almost kind of apologized in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And so it's disappointing that Amari Cooper had to handle that way, but Phil's words for him, including punk and all that kind of stuff, I love, because that's just like I said. I mean, I'm sure if Phil could rewind and play football again right now, he would love to go out there and hit.
I'm pretty confident he would light Cooper up, man. It would. Could you?
It would be fun.
You know. Not to get off track here, but
yeah,
when you think about guys like Villapiano and Tatum and Atkinson, Hendricks, the guys that they had on the defense, could you imagine seeing a defense like that now? I mean,
oh my gosh.
You know, we talk about how great the Ravens defense has been historically over the last 20 years, and Tampa had some great defenses, but those guys they were murderers out there. I mean, without actually killing anybody. They destroyed that had to be so much fun to watch. I mean, I can only watch videos. I wasn't around until the very late 70s. But to be able to watch that team live, to go to games and see those guys play live had to be something else.
And the thing is, too, the part of the story at the end there where Phil, I mean, I think I wish I could be there. And I know his daughter Andrea and his two sons, Michael and Phil, are going to be with them up in Oakland for the Pittsburgh game next week, taking Franco. I mean,
so
now
cool.
Imagine.
I keep saying it. Cool.
For those of you listening up in Oakland, because I know we have a lot of listeners there on the radio.com app, or if you're listening on demand, listen, Franco Harris is going to be walking through the tailgate area of the Oakland Coliseum.
Let him hear it. You got to give it to Franco. Don't be nice.
See,
Don't be nice.
That's
Let
the thing.
him hear it.
That's the thing with Raider fans is they'll give it to him,
and they'll have fun with it,
and they'll have fun with him, and they'll respect him because of who he is,
and he'll love them for it, because that's how Raider fans are, man. They bring you into the family.
And I think the over/under on Raider fans with footballs in the parking lot mimicking the ball touching the ground is going to be like 5,000.
Oh, easily. Think about how many pictures Franco was going to take. On that Sunday, he's just going to walk around taking pictures with guys.
You didn't catch the ball. You didn't touch the ground.
Oh, and it's going to be Franco, down in that pose, and every Raider fan standing around him getting pictures taken.
Well, and the funny thing about that too is every time we get ready to interview Phil, and again, thank you to his daughter Andrea too, who helps us out with contacting him and getting in touch with him as well. Every time we interview Phil, I go back and there's one documentary. It's a 30 for 30 on the Immaculate Reception, because Phil in that interview, and then they actually have live every December 23rd when Franco Harris calls Phil and says, "Hey, what were you doing X number of years ago?" They actually had that on film, and man, it just gets you pumped up to interview Phil. But it's amazing, and I think it was one of the guys, one of the journalists, I forgot which one, came on and said, "Hey, listen. The answer to this mystery always will be there is no answer. It's a mystery, because that's what the lore of the NFL." Now, I think Phil's point about the clip is absolutely dead on. I don't know whether the ball touched the ground or not. but he did get clipped.
Yep.
There's no question.
Yep.
And maybe before Christmas we can get him at least via recording to talk about it, because it's amazing how that game lives on. And Franco Harris being in the black hole. Imagine that.
Man, I want to be up there just to see him strolling around that parking lot, and I'm telling you, he's going to have so much fun out there, because I said
he's never experienced it.
Yeah, and I said, don't be nice, Raider Nation. Like, don't be nice to him, and I don't mean
don't be
go out and go after him, things like that. But let him hear it. Let him hear about the immaculate deception, as Raider fans like to call it, not reception, deception. And have fun with it, because you know he enjoys it. Villapiano and him have become great friends over the years. They enjoy it. I mean, when it's all said and done, it's a football game, right?
And people forget that Franco is also Italian. He's half Italian, so they share that whole Jersey Italian thing is really special, which is funny. All right, well, listen, when we come back, we're going to talk a little more about the Raiders and Chiefs and what's happening there. We're also going to talk to Nate Taylor, who's a little bit delayed. We're going to have him on in the final segment due to some breaking news. Kareem Hunt has granted an interview, correct?
Yeah, I guess he's given an interview, or is about to give an interview. I'm not 100% sure of the details.
Yeah.
But, Nate's gonna fill us in on that.
He'll fill us in on that. We'll also talk more about the Chiefs and the Raiders matchup. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Two shows, two nights. Holiday Havoc.
science, technology, engineering, and math that can help give you a leg up to a high-paying and rewarding STEM profession. Get a head start on your career while earning money to pay for college. Log on to nationalguard.com to learn about all of the STEM career opportunities in the Army National Guard. Sponsored by the Nevada Army National Guard. Aired by the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
Callers and guests on the Newsmaker line are brought to you by the Law Office of Michael A. Troiano.
Hey, this is Rodney Hudson. You're listening to Silver and Black today.
All right, Mr. Hudson, you're going to have a big day today. And when I mean that, I mean you're going to have to run block your big tail off. Welcome back, Silver and Black today.
For
You're
who?
on CBS Radio.
Run block for who? Your
Doug
boy?
Martin.
Your
Doug
boy?
Martin. Hey, Doug Martin's had a couple good weeks, man. I know we
Has
joke.
he even broke 100 yards yet?
No, because
I mean, a couple big weeks by whose standards?
Well, 100 yards rushing or 100
Yeah.
yards total offense?
Rushing.
Well, that's not at the NFL
He's a
anymore.
running back.
Like the guy we've been talking about, Kareem Hunt, who's now maybe
Led the league in rushing last season.
He did. But if you look at his dual threat, it's catching.
Martin leads the league in bicep to height ratio.
Bicep to height ratio, absolutely. The muscle hamster. We are talking Raider football as we do every Sunday. Quick shout out to our friend Ed Marshall in Alaska, who is doing okay after the big earthquake up there. Not everyone fared as well, but a shout out to him and his family and everybody up in Alaska, who we actually have some listeners up there, which is nice.
That's crazy to me that we have people listening in Alaska.
Yes. Well, Ed's got a place here in Vegas too, so he's like a Vegas guy.
I feel like I feel like Alaska doesn't even have internet yet. I know that they do, but
Here comes
Alaska
Ed,
seems like such another world.
Hey, Ed, you
It's
tweet at
just
Matt
another
Gutierrez. Don't
world.
tweet at me. Matt's the one who said it. Lots of oil up there. I
Don't
know
at
that.
me.
I know
Don't at
that.
me.
Don't at me, bro. But we're going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. One last personal thing I have to say. And I talked about Coach Bola, who's listening to us and doing well after some health issues. Another friend and just a jewel in our community runs the Nevada Donor Network, and that is, of course, Simon Keith, former UNLV soccer player, the first professional athlete to play with a heart transplant. Unfortunately, Simon is now in need of a heart and kidney transplant for a second time.
Wow.
We found out this week. And Simon is a beautiful human being. He's got a great family, does so much in our community, and has always been a good friend to me and someone that, again, makes the community here and has had such an impact in organ donation. And so we're sending our thoughts and prayers out to him in San Diego as he awaits that transplant, and hopefully that happens soon. Unfortunately, it has to happen because someone loses their life, but that's what organ donation is about. So if you're not an organ donor, please consider it. I am one, and you should too. You can save a life by doing that. All right, now let's get into the Kansas City Chiefs. Matt, this game, I want to find a way to say I could see the Raiders winning it.
But
the Kareem Hunt's the only thing I can find. Kareem Hunt's the distraction. That's the only thing I can find to make me think they have a chance.
The Raiders give up about 30 points a game.
That's all?
Just under 30 points a game.
Aren't they last in the league, by the way?
They're
or first in the league?
Yeah.
However you want to say it.
I think they're the third from the bottom
Oh, third
as far
from
as
the bottom.
points
Okay.
per game given up. Kansas City scores almost 37 points a game. The Raiders only score 17 a game. Statistically, there's no way the Raiders can keep up with the Chiefs offense. I don't care if Kareem Hunt is out there or not. There's no way that they can keep up. Now, that doesn't mean the Raiders can't have a good day, and maybe their offense clicks on all cylinders and we see some kind of offensive firepower and they're able to go up and down the field and they hang 40 on the Chiefs. But the Chiefs offense is going to hang 55 on the Raiders. I mean, you saw what they did to the Rams.
I think the only way the Raiders have a good day is if Cube comes and sings the song.
I think if he comes and sings the songs during the Chiefs' offensive possessions and they're more interested in Cube than they are running their offense, maybe. But there's no way. Again, the last time the Chiefs were on the field, they were playing in L.A. against the Rams, who the Rams have a good defense. Not as great as we all thought it was going to be, but they have a good defense. They can get after the quarterback. They can force turnovers, which they did, and they still scored 52 against the Rams in a crazy loss. how in the world does this Raiders team slow down an offense like that with the defensive personnel that they have right now?
And I have been all season. I have been a defender of Derek Carr's. I've said that I think he can
Doug
do
Martin's.
it, and Doug Martin's, but the different categories. But nonetheless, what I have not seen is I've been keep waiting for that big game from Carr. I know you can argue he doesn't have tools, he doesn't have player, blah 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 blah. I have not seen it. Right, I have not seen him coming out of kind of that funk,
And
or
why
whatever
is
you want
that?
to call it. Is good question. I don't know.
I do, because he throws from me to you and nobody else. He refuses to stretch the field.
No, you've said
and
that all
that's why
season.
you're not getting.
You've said that all season.
Yeah, and that's why you're not getting these big numbers. His completion percentage is great, but it's because everything stays underneath. He stays safe. He's become a very safe game-managing quarterback. The Derek Carr we saw in 2016 took chances. He still played it safe when he needed to, but he took chances. He went down the field. He threw it to Crabtree in the end zone on these jump ball situations. He tried to go down the middle with Cooper and let him just take off with the ball. They opened up their offense and allowed Carr to really use that big arm that he has. Carr has a really good deep ball, but he's not using it at all. And we've seen the film. We've seen guys running around out there wide open, or at the very least in positions where they can make a play on a ball, and Carr doesn't even look their direction anymore. Everything is underneath and everything is safe. And the problem with that is to be able to generate a lot of yards and a lot of points with an offense like that, you have to go on these 10 to 12 play drives that cover 75 yards and do it consistently throughout the game. And the Raiders don't have that type of offense. They don't have that type of personnel to be able to sustain these long drives, drive after drive after drive.
No, and when they do establish the run in the short spurts that they don't pay it off by going deep and getting that pass.
Right.
So I agree with you there. Now, if you look at that, that's obviously what they have to look in the mirror and say, okay, what are we going to do or not do against this Chiefs team? Now, you take Kareem Hunt and his 824 yards, 7 touchdowns running, 7 touchdowns receiving, and you replace it with Spencer Ware. Spencer Ware, remember, was the starter before Hunt was there. Actually, Hunt was there. He was his understudy. Ware hurts his knee in the preseason, losing his job to Hunt, who then becomes this big breakout star. So I think for the Raiders, that defensive unit up front, the P.J. Hall we just talked about, and Maurice Hurst and Arden Key, those guys are going to have to play well up front today, Matt, because they have to slow down. Now, Ware does not have the playmaking ability that Hunt has, but Ware is very consistent. He can catch the ball, and he can run the ball like Hunt. And so that defensive front, forget the defensive backs, they're going to – look, Mahomes is going to light them up. There's just no doubt about it. Okay, Nick Nelson's playing better, and I'm glad he's starting now, but the reality is, to me, if they're going to have any chance, they're going to have to slow down the Chiefs up front to give themselves a chance.
Yeah, where is, you said he's not the same back. He's just not as explosive. He doesn't have that same
no big play
dynamic that you get with Kareem Hunt. That doesn't mean he's not a good running back. He is a good running back. You may see a little more of him in the running game than you do in the passing game, unlike Kareem Hunt, where I think you get a really nice balance of the two. But that doesn't mean he can't get out there and make plays. And forget about the running back. I'm telling you, Travis Kelce is going to destroy this team today. He always beats up on the Raiders. He's a really good tight end. We know that. Raiders have to see him twice a year every year.
It's going to be him or Tyreek Hill because you got to double him.
Well, yeah, Hill's, man.
You forgot about him, didn't you?
It's not that I forgot about him, but like, every time I think about him, I think about every huge play that he has against the Raiders, and it's pretty much every time he's on the field against them. But Travis Kelce, you saw Gruden freak out in the press conference last week about 74 yards to a tight end.
Oh.
What do you think Kelsey's going to do out there?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to get ugly because the Raiders don't have answers for all of these weapons.
No, and that, to me, that's the big issue. You'd like to say, listen, it's a rivalry game, and so that means we're going to have, unexpected things can happen. Anything can happen. Any given Sunday stuff in the NFL, and while that's true, I just, the way this team's going and things are happening, what I'm looking for out of the Raiders today, to be frank with you, Matt, is just good plays in spots. Like, see a Nick Nelson make a nice play. See a Garyon Conley make a nice play. See a P.J. Hall, Maurice Hurst. See somebody like that. See a Marcel Aitman, when he does get the ball, catch the ball this week, unlike last week. So, to me, I just want to see – and I want to see them establish the run. I'd like to see that offensive line do something, even if they gave good pass protection last week, it wasn't taken advantage of. Like, we watched some of that film.
Yeah, he's just not.
But
He take those shots.
No, he's not taking those shots. But that's what I want to see from them today. And Ed from Alaska said, Matt, it's right. I can throw the ball 3 yards and I'll do it for less money. With his prediction of 54-17 is the final score.
Man, I mean, honestly, that 54, I have no argument with that. I mean, it's just now I do expect the Raiders, honestly, to maybe you might see the best from the Raiders that you've seen in the last month, probably.
Could be.
They've been gone for 2 weeks. They only have a couple of games left in the Coliseum, maybe ever. And this is that rivalry. The Chiefs and Raiders is a humongous rivalry. Not just for the Chiefs. Everybody hates the Raiders. It's always Raider week for everybody. But as far as the Raiders are concerned, the Chiefs are the only team in the division that owns a winning record against them.
Correct.
The Chargers and the Broncos aren't even close.
No.
As much success as they've had in the last 15 years, they're not even close. The Chiefs own the Raiders.
Yeah.
This is their
by
rivalry
9 games.
game.
They have a 9-game lead in the overall series. And you know what? I think for the Raiders, they need to come out strong. You say that, but at the end of the day, the Raiders' issue has been the second half all year long. Minus
Pretty much
4,
been anything
104.
outside of the first drive of both halves.
104-point differential in the second half is just brutal. I mean, it's ungodly. All right, when we come back, we're going to try to get Nate Taylor on. He's had breaking news, obviously, in Kansas City with Kareem Hunt talking to the media today. But we'll try to reach out to him. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
To take Silver and Black Today with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
That's right. Search us, radio.com app. If you don't have the radio.com app, you are missing out. And I want to make sure you go get it because not only can you listen to us, I mean, Matt thinks it's weird when I say this, but you can have Matt and I in your pocket.
Still sounds awkward, man.
It's sort of like some politicians who have some people in their pockets, but instead you just have a radio show, which is not as offensive. But you are back here on, I know, I'm reaching. You are here on the Silver and Black Today. I am Scott Branson. He is Matt Gutierrez. We host this show where we talk about Raider football. Some great feedback on the Phil Villapiano interview. Patty Walter, Phil let me try on his Super Bowl ring when I worked at Hertz years ago.
It's so fun to put those rings on.
Oh, man. When we had Cliff Branch in here, remember? Yeah. He had one on, you had one on, I had one on. It was awesome. But, Patty, thanks for your comment there and for watching on Facebook. My mom worked at National Rent-A-Car back in the 60s and met some guy came up to her. He said, hey, he looked like a hippie, and he had a record. He's like, here's my first record. It was on Apple Records, which was the old Beatles record label. It was James Taylor, like his first album. So funny stuff happens. Everybody has to rent cars. But anyway, we are back here. We are talking. We're waiting on Nate Taylor, who may or may not join us.
He just texted and said he's going to be calling now. So
okay, so we're going to bring Nate Taylor from the
He's
Athletic.
Busy.
He's a little busy.
Yeah.
Nate Taylor from The Athletic in Kansas City. He covers the Kansas City Chiefs, so you can imagine the kind of week that Nate Taylor has had. But we're going to get him on the phone here in a second. He'll update us on the latest with Kareem Hunt, which has been the topic du jour in the NFL this year. So we're going to get him here on the air as well to talk about the whole situation.
I think we have him here. Nate, you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you guys?
Good. Hey. How you doing, man?
Doing well.
You little busy out there, huh? You have some late breaking news going on?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's tragic, and who's to say any of us saw this coming, even when we knew the incident way back in February.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Hey, Nate, it's Scott Branson here at Silver and Black Today. That's the thing is, when something like this happens, nobody takes any joy in seeing a young man make a poor decision that impacts his career, impacts his team, impacts an organization, and frankly, let's face it, impacts a city. I lived in Kansas City. I know how hardcore Chiefs fans are and how much they love their team and how every year when they do well, they're always waiting for that shoe to drop. It seems like it has again. But what's the latest? I mean, we've seen Kareem now come out and apologize. What are we hearing today, and what are you working on?
Yeah, so my understanding is that, there were some things that I wonder if there were some things that were not sort of agreed upon that he wouldn't talk about. But he did say he was sorry. I think the big overarching thing is that he showed some remorse, some level of shame. And the idea is that he actually said he would say sorry to the woman, which how many times have we come across, at least in sports, politics, or whatever, where they're like, well, what would you say to the victim? And they're like, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything. And so he's on the right path as of now. It's just, will he stay on it? Will a team take a risk? What will his suspension be, which could be anywhere between 6 to 10 games, as far as I'm thinking, based on both incidents, both in February and in June. So that's where we are now. And look, this team has to play a game against the Lakers, albeit they're tanking, where it's just going to be a unique environment that you could not have foreseen. And you lose one of your best players on the team. Like, that's got to have a trickle effect that we aren't sure what it's going to be come January.
And Nate, I wanted to ask you about the Chiefs' reaction, because as soon as the video came out, they were very quick to send Kareem Hunt home, and then within just a few hours, he was off of the team. How much of this has to do with the horrible situation a few years ago with Javon Belcher, the Kansas City linebacker who committed suicide there at the facility? Is it just a case of, you know what, we can't even afford to have this even hanging around us at this point? We need to cut ties immediately because we've been down this road and we can't do that again.
Yeah, and thankfully no one's died yet. But, the thing is that they know Kareem better than any of us, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. They know he lied, and they know that because of their history and how unfortunate it is, you're right. There are no options to this, and he's going to be suspended, and the video looks worse than any of us could have envisioned at the time. But they also don't want him to be Ray Rice. And that's what I wrote, yesterday in The Athletic, the idea that, like, they want to see him get help because they saw, even as they tried to help Javon Belcher, how tricky of a situation that can be and obviously how tragic one can be if not handled properly or if things go awry. I respect that Kareem went out today and at least said some things. Now, he could have said them better. He could have answered more questions. ESPN could have given it more time to really, dive deeper into, like, his issues. But for the Chiefs, I mean, you're trying to be an upstanding organization in a league that is full of embarrassments when it comes to, like, things off the field.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're tied to them again. So the only way to absolve yourself or to move on is to literally, end his contract.
Well, Nate, and I think most folks are applauding what the Chiefs did, as painful as it was from the talent level perspective. But was there, from your sources and everyone you're talking to there, was there any counterpoint of view on how to handle it, or was it always from Hunt all the way down, we got to do this right away?
What I was told by multiple people is had Kareem Hunt told the truth, say he wakes up February 10th, hours after the incident, and says, hey, something may have happened. I may have been drinking. I don't totally know everything, but I think I did something unfortunate, or my friends tell me I did something unfortunate because they were trying to stop me.
Mm-hmm.
Had he done that, the Chiefs would have done anything in their waking power with the league's understanding to try to keep him on the team. Maybe that means he would have served a suspension earlier this season, and they would have all moved on, and he would still be playing today against the Raiders. But because he lied and because he continued to lie, the Chiefs basically felt they had no other options. And I think, based on what people have told me, that is alcohol sort of the culprit or the trigger or a part of the equation in his two incidents, both in February with a woman and in June in punching a man at a Cleveland resort. These are situations where they're complicated. The Chiefs tried to help as best they could, but they trusted a kid who lied to them, and that makes them look incredibly embarrassing. But that's sort of how all of this shook out.
And Nate, real quick, we only have about 30 seconds left, unfortunately, but what do you think? Is Kareem Hunt going to be a Kansas City Chief in the future?
No.
You think he's done?
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. And the question now is, will a team see what he said today, look at his talent, and he's immensely talented, and give him a chance? Will they do for him what they couldn't do for Ray Rice?
Right.
Yeah, good point. Nate, listen, we wanted to talk to you about the game, but we didn't have time today because we know how hard you're working. You had breaking news. But want to thank you for taking time. Enjoy the game up in Oakland, and we'll catch up with you at the end of the year.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you so much, guys. And, hey, football.
That's right. That's right. Let's get to football. All right. That has been Nate Taylor from the Athletic in Kansas City. Thanks for joining us on that way. Matt, that's the end of the show, man. We're done.
Yeah, man. It flew.
And by the way, I appreciate even fans who criticize. We had a fan who's like, why are you talking about Kareem Hunt? It's the Raiders. Who cares? Well, they're playing
it's a big
Chiefs
deal,
today,
man. Yeah,
and it's a big deal
Chiefs
in the NFL. But, hey, Ulysses, we still love you, man. It's all good. You don't like it. I get it. It's cool. Anyway, we are going to talk to you next week for our engineer, Sonia Schlobaum, and for Matt Gutierrez, my host, I'm Scuckle Branson. You have been listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Tune in to the PG today at 4 p.m. for your Raiders postgame. Thanks again. Talk to you next time.